Welcome to our series special, a unique segment of Narratives and Nightcaps, the book club podcast where we dive into the details of a book series, pair it with a nightcap, and leave a book review. I'm Jordan.
I'm Emily from Books.Bottles.
I'm Bree from Narratives and Nightcaps.
I love it. Aww. I so enjoy these times with you. How are you ladies doing? It's good to see you both.
You too. I'm doing well. I feel like just, like everybody, getting things done and weeks moving. We're recording on an afternoon on a weekday, so
we're halfway through February.
And we're already halfway through February. So I feel like just keep all hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times.
That was January for me. It was like, buckle up, strap in. It's going to be a year long in this 1 month. But yeah, we're already halfway through February. No, it's so good. I'm always so excited to talk with you both. And this series has just been so much fun. Like, I'm so glad we did this one. But my life has just been work. So it's like not super exciting.
Well, hopefully this has been a little bit of a release, a little bit of a nice little escape, but I hear you.
It's something to look forward to whenever we have these scheduled.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's awesome. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm ready for the travel to slow down. I will be completely honest about that. I have 2 more trips for work over the next couple months, and then I'm officially out of my training program. So
congratulations!
Woo! I'm ready for that to be done. That is for sure. I have 2 big presentations coming up in April, and then I will officially be out of the training program. So
that's amazing.
It's a relief. I mean, I'm not out of the woods yet, obviously, but I'm getting there.
You have light. You have light at the end of the tunnel. Light at the end of the tunnel, I have learned, is a very, very important thing. You can do just about anything. If you can see that light, you can do it.
I feel like that's a good segue and applicable to today's book, to be completely honest with you. So yes, listeners, we are covering the second book in the Blood and Ash series, A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer Armentrout. I'm super excited to hear your thoughts, dive into this book. Let's start with our pairing before we get into our ratings. Take it, Emily.
Sure. So for this second book, it was funny. I went back. I think I shared this in our last episode.
Mm-hmm.
My trusty label book here for another one that I had back in 2017, but called Secrets of Bordeaux or Secrets de Bordeaux. And I just thought this one stood out to me for the second book for a couple of reasons. Ultimately, book 2 reveals so many secrets.
So much.
Right and left, we'll talk about kind of all of that comes. And so the fact that the wine was called Secrets was just appropriate for this. It definitely kept me on the edge of my seat, right, when I was reading this. This is a Merlot and Cab blend. So I love blends, but I think that also shows, just kind of the blend that we're seeing that Atlantia, and Poppy and Castile are maybe not quite as black and white. Like there's definitely a blend and an overlap between the 2 kingdoms and what's happening. It has some spicy notes, which we'll talk about. This book definitely has a lot more spice than this one. We went through it. And it finishes with kind of notes of mango and pepper and cherry, which all were things that kind of reminded me of what one might have smelled in Atlantia or a market when they're describing, kind of this perfect, city.
I will give it to Jennifer Armentrout. She's an excellent author that really does incorporate a lot of smells and senses. I picked up on that a lot more in this book. I don't know about the 2 of you. I mean, I remember that a little bit in Blood and Ash, but it felt a lot more prevalent or kind of at the forefront of this book in particular.
I felt like I could see, in my mind, I had a better idea of the scene with some of that.
Mm-hmm. I have a random question.
Mm-hmm.
Is mango common in wine?
It's a good question. I don't.
Maybe with blends? Question mark?
Because
blends and with whites.
It's not one that I feel like you hear about a lot.
Mhm.
And then this is the second wine that, like, in the past couple of months that I've heard someone mention, and then they mentioned mango, and I'm like, have I missed this all along?
You missing
Because
the
I
mango
don't,
wine
like,
drink?
I don't feel like whenever I do like a wine tasting or something, like mango is not one of the fruits that I feel like is mentioned a ton. So I was just curious. I'm like,
Well, I'll throw this out there. I am not a sommelier by any means, so if there is a listener out there who is, please write to us because we would love to get
By
the
all
official
means.
certified response. My opinion, just as a avid wine drinker, I think mango I see more in like white wines, but
yeah,
it
Yeah.
still has like an acidic, tart, fruit forward flavor that can come through in a red wine.
okay.
No, that's a good
And
point.
yes, if you've listened to this show, you know we're not experts. We're not sommeliers. We're not bartenders, expert bartenders, or anything. I even I was interviewing an author last year who has been a bartender and is like very experienced in cocktails, and I was like, I'm so sorry for any episode you've ever listened to. And she was like, no, no, no. She goes, I
If
think it's
we
so
have failed you in any
I
way,
know. I was
please.
like I was like, "That's so embarrassing." I mean, I knew one day it was going to come, but I was like, "I have so much respect. I'm so sorry that we're just total amateurs at the cocktail business." And she was so sweet. She was like, "No, no, no. I think it's so cool that you're like trying something new with cocktails, mocktails, wines." She was so, so, so sweet. That was Taryn Davidson. She was awesome, but I was so embarrassed.
Do you have any aspirations or goals to become a sommelier, Emily?
Gosh, in all my spare time, I would love to.
Emily's like, I have all the time in the world. By all means, let me just take that master class.
Yeah, after right, full-time mom, like full-time wife, full-time work. Yeah, no, all my free time. I would love to. I actually want, but I don't know. That might be like my retired, my retirement plan. But
Guys,
I would,
next reality TV show idea. Like like a sommelier competition.
you know what, Jordan? Actually, exists.
Does it exist?
Yeah. So
I'm such a dope.
if
You
you watch though, this is what I found fascinating, and I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent here, but the documentary Somm, SOMM,
I'm gonna
you
write
got
this
to check it
down.
out because it
SOMM.
SOMM because it follows a group of individuals that are studying to be sommeliers themselves. And so it goes through like how they prepare, how they train their palate to taste things like mango, or you'll hear like tobacco is another, right? And like how they go through, right, to be able to train their palate to taste it. But the part that blew my mind, and this all just was one of, so it's like there's a written exam and then there's a, what do I
I
call it?
did not know there was a written exam.
Like a live tasting, and they are given a certain number of wines, like reds, whites, mixture, in glasses, and they have to taste and they have to provide like the tasting notes, the year, the vintage, and what region of the world, like, and what grapes, just off of like a sip. It's an insane documentary to watch everybody prep for this.
That
Uh,
is fascinating.
Fascinating. Highly recommend. Confirmed my amateur status, but super fascinating to watch and get into. So I opened that up. SOMM Som. I think at one point it might have been on Netflix, maybe on
Okay.
at this point. But
I'm
really,
totally gonna look that up. I should have known that that was already out there. My gosh, I'm such a dope.
but all good. But I'd say cheers. So Secrets of Bordeaux,
Yes.
many reasons. I think there's a lot that's uncovered in this book, and I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts.
Well
Cheers.
done.
Okay,
Cheers.
I love it. Okay, I will get into our plot summary. Picking up right where our series left off, our heroine, Penelope Bellefour, or Poppy, has a marriage proposal to consider. Her relationship with Prince Castile Hawkthorne Denier is about to reach another level, but not without its obstacles. To say their journey to rebuild the Kingdom of Atlantia is riddled with twists and turns would be the understatement of the century. While Poppy and Hawk prepare for waging an all-out war against the Ascended, the information and secrets revealed along the way will surely have its consequences. The question of the hour is, will all this be too much for these two to handle? A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire is a tale of choices, secrets, and revenge at its finest. Okay, oh, I want to know ratings. What our initial thoughts were on this book. Who wants to go first?
Emily, you kick it
I'll
off.
jump in. I'll jump in. I was gonna say I was getting looking at my notes on this one. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Um, I think I liked the first book better overall. This was
Okay,
a solid second performance, if you will, for me.
sure.
I think some of the things that I absolutely loved in this book, which is what bumped up the rating for me, is I loved Poppy's character and strength that seems to come through throughout the story. I feel like in book one, she was a little bit like a baby bird learning to fly, like trying to figure out like which way was up and how everything was working. And we as readers were like right there with her. And
Mm-hmm.
the second book really cemented, that she is a strong female main character. And so I just loved
Nice.
seeing that come through more in the second book. I also really appreciated her honest processing of her emotions and everything she's learning. That felt really real to me. I think there's other fantasy, romantasy, and non fantasy books I've read where sometimes the characters just accept it. And as a reader, I'm going, wait, what? I have a going on with that. So I like
Sure.
how I think Jennifer did a great job of making that feel very realistic. I liked the twists and turns as much as I was like devouring this book, going like, just tell me already. It was fun to like be on the roller coaster. And the revenge we got with the Duchess was like loved that.
Okay.
That we'll get to, but that was all pros for
We're
me.
we're gonna talk about the Duchess and we're gonna talk about Lord Cheney. Because
Oh,
listen, there was not just one epic scene of revenge, and I'm gonna agree with you. Poppy was giving way more Aelin vibes this book this
in a
time
good way.
around
In a
for
good
me. In a great way.
way.
Agreed.
So I loved all of those, and that bumped the rating up for me. What knocked it down a little bit for me, what I wasn't my fave, is I feel like Castile felt like a little bit of a different character for me this book. I
Okay.
felt like he felt, for me, he felt way fast for Poppy and was like, I don't know, I like love at first sight, like just blinded by love and went head first, into it. And there were parts of it that I was a little like, dude, like you were engaged twice before before.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that too.
Like this just it felt a little that felt a little off for me. And then I felt like kind of the middle portion of the book, it slowed down a little bit before the ending, like took off like a rocket ship,
Mhm.
and ended on another cliffhanger. So
Oh
overall, for
my
all
gosh.
those reasons, for me, solid 4 out of 5 stars.
I love it. What about for you, Brie?
I mean, I echo, I think, most of what you said. So, similarly, this was like a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a solid second book. I feel like it's pretty typical for me that I like the first book in a series almost always. Like Throne of Glass is an exception to that. Akatar is like an exception to that rule for me. So I wouldn't say it was like quite first book, but I thought that it was really intriguing. Like I I mean we said in the last episode, like this kind of went in directions that we weren't expecting. And that still happened and that continued with this and I enjoyed that. I love seeing Poppy's character evolve. Um Castile in general, I like him. Is he like top book boyfriend for me? No. But I like him and I like his character and I find there's like some good humor in the dialogue and everything, which is also
Yes.
fun to read. Um this was a page turner for me, and I guess what knocked it down though is I also felt like there were times it wasn't going anywhere. Like
Right.
I was like, okay, okay, like let's go. And it didn't, I will say it never like deterred me, which is a good thing. And I appreciate, and on one hand that we're seeing more world building later on in this series than we did with like the first book, which I think is kind of cool and I think contributes a lot to that. But there were times that I was like, when you look at this book beginning to end, I'm like, did a lot happen? And yet it took us a long time to really get there. all that said, like, I really enjoyed it. I couldn't put it down, and the ending was, like, insane.
Mind
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So,
Agreed.
still loved it, still very much into it. Not at all. I think 4 stars is a very fair rating.
Nice. I feel like I was a little harder than the two of you. Okay, so listener, to give you some context, I may or may not have struggled a little bit with the timing of when I started this book and when we scheduled this podcast recording, because I had another book that I was finishing at the time, and then these fantasy books, romantasy books we've talked about, they are a commitment. They are a very, very big commitment. So I may or may not have finished this book like 4 hours ago, maybe like 5 hours ago. So I'm gonna be completely,
Finished it though.
but I
Finished.
finished. But I finished. Right. And that's what
Jordan,
matters.
in all fairness, this was last year, so, like, do not feel bad, but there was literally a book that Megan and I did, and I did not read it. And, like,
What?
we got on, and I was like, I I couldn't read it. I go, "I'm so sorry." Like, well, I gave her a heads up beforehand, but I could, and I mean, it wasn't even the book, I would say. It's just like life circumstances, and you're like, I just couldn't,
Sure.
like, I couldn't read it. I'll
Things
go back to it
things
one day.
happen.
So you finished it, and that says a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh, I knew I was going to. That was never the question. Do I agree that this was page turning, worthy of the read? Absolutely. I had every single intention of finishing before we recorded, and I had faith in myself that I would. So, like, I wasn't worried about that. I appreciated your point, Brie, that you brought up about, like, there just were so many points in the story, though, where I felt like, okay, where are we going? Like, what are we doing? And that was why I gave it 3.5 rather than 5, or rather than 4 or 5. I said, I loved the character development. We're going to get into all of that. I loved the banter, all of the things. There just were times, though, where it felt like, okay, we're getting somewhere. Wait. I thought we were getting somewhere. Oh. Oh, okay, we're here. Like, that was a little bit of, like, how it felt somewhat. So, overall, though, yes, the pining and yearning between Poppy and Castile, absolutely love. I think it's fantastic. So much, though, felt just so drawn out, and it felt long in places where I don't think it needed to be, where I just wish that it hadn't been. So,
Did anyone else, and I'm not trying to jump ahead because
go
but I
for it.
also
Jump
feel this
ahead.
way
Let's
about
do it.
book 3. Like, I kind of felt this way about book 2 and book 3. Did anyone else feel like it was repetitive at times?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was part of the problem that I had. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the whole marriage timeline, because we'll just segue right into that. This whole, like, will we, won't we? I don't know. Is this real? Is this not real? Like, I, I'm sorry. I grew so frustrated. On the one hand, I absolutely loved it. And then on the other hand, I was like, oh my God.
Okay, I was with you on that. I was like, oh my goodness, you guys, like, pick a path.
Pick a lane.
Pick a lane.
Just pick a lane.
Yeah.
One moment he's trying to convince her. Another moment she thinks she's convinced, and then she finds something else out, and then she's not convinced. And then I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Part of me too the whole time, and maybe this just is me on this one, but part of it too when they were doing this, should we not, are we not, is this real kind of thing, there it definitely had tension throughout the book, which was, as you said, Jordan, right? Fun to read, but also you're kind of hitting your head against a wall a little bit as a reader.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
also was sitting there going, like, Poppy, what other choice do you have? Not that that would be a good reason to just dive in and, like, not process all that she was feeling. But
Right.
after everything that she had learned about the Ascended, the Ascension, what they were, what the world was like, I kind of at a certain point was going, homegirl, what other choice do you have? Like, you're really just going to go knock back on the door at the Duchess's house before that scene.
But
And,
really,
like,
though.
hey girl, hey, so sorry, like, made a mistake. Like, where's my veil? I mean, I don't know. Like, what else would I just wasn't, that was part of it. I was like, you just sort of have to jump. I don't know if you guys felt the same.
No, I did. And there's that so there's that like one scene early on where like Poppy and Castile pretty much like swap war stories almost. He shares what the Ascended did to him while he was their prisoner. Absolutely awful. And he then, kind of later transitions a couple chapters later to like explaining his rationale for the marriage, right? Like again, and we've been through this. I think we were kind of in this a little bit when we talked about oh my gosh, Bryce and what's his name? In
Hunt?
Crescent City.
Hunt?
Yes, Bryce and Hunt in Crescent City
The
because there was like that.
fault.
No, but there was like that very like business transaction kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's almost like here's Castile trying to present his case, if you will, right? Like, here's a very pragmatic, practical reason why we should get married. I can offer you safety, and you also bring, like, I don't know, like it seemed like they both had leverage because she could help him in trying to save his brother. Oh my gosh, now I'm blanking on his name.
Oh shoot.
And I'm the one that finished it. Mikhail. No. Malik.
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 There we go.
I gotta say, okay, I'm gonna throw this out there because Malik and Malik, King Malik.
Malik and Malik. Yes, it was Malik.
I
Malik
had
is
those, like they were so close that when I was reading it, I was like, which one, K or C? Who? How they're spelled.
again back to Emily's point. Pick a lane. Pick a path.
Well, not to make like another Crescent City tie, but when we were like, why do they all have the same name? Like, why?
They're all named Peleus. Okay.
Why do they all have the same name? How am I supposed to keep them straight? I mean, that is like all those reels right now with Onyx Storm that are like, and then there's another name, and you're like, who is this?
Who are you?
I'm almost done with the book, and there are people that I've read about that I'm like, I have no recollection
With
of.
Llewellyn. But really, though.
And the names are never like, Sally and Joe. It's like names that I have to look up the pronunciation on Google.
No, you don't.
Or
have
I
to do
say
that.
something.
You can make it up.
Take one thing off my plate. Don't look up.
Don't Google it. Do not Google
Really?
it.
Oh
Make
my
it up. Call it what you want. Call them what you want. It's
Perfect.
fine.
I love
But
it.
yes, so his brother, Malik, I believe. And then also her brother, Ian. So basically, they both have leverage and reasons to use each other. They have ways that they can benefit one another through this union and through this marriage. Now, with that being said, let's transition for a second into some of the conditions of this union right out the gate. I did feel like some things were weird. I'm not gonna lie. And we're gonna bring Kieran into the chat for a second and just say, I understand if we're setting up for a love triangle.
You're talking about the joining? Like,
Yeah,
I'm talking about the joining.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, I don't know how to explain it very well because it's all super confusing. But basically, I mean, all it sounded like to me was the consummation of a union. Like the solidification of like here's and it's like the formation of a bond in particular, like if you're not already what they would call heartmates.
yeah, I think and I'll attempt. You guys can tell me where I go wrong on this. So what we know so far at kind of the point when the joining is introduced, and listener, it is like capital T, capital J, like the joining, is when, so Atlanteans are also have to drink blood, are vampires of a certain ilk. They're not the same as an ascended, but they do have to feed every now and then. And
Mm-hmm.
when they do feed, it can be a like feeding and sexual experience.
Right. An aphrodisiac.
An aphrodisiac. There's the word. Um, but then high-ranking Atlanteans often bond with a wolven, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they'll do like a wolven and an Atlantean will like at birth, their parents or so will decide like you two sound good together, grow up and they have this special bond.
Well, and
So
that was also like a political thing too, was to
right.
like
It
keep
sounded like it. Yeah.
keep
Mm-hmm.
the species for lack of a better word, like on good terms and like making sure that there was a voice for all parties.
Mm-hmm.
That bonding, like the Wolven to Atlantean is not like that's a platonic relationship, like deeper than a sibling, right? But they protect each other
Yep.
to the end, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It is very political because it's
Yeah.
high-ranking Atlanteans and high-ranking Wolven. So I got the sense that, and then when an Atlantean marries, this as spouses, there's obviously a bond there, and they will like feed on each other as need be.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, it's kind of like the joining would be then so that the three of them, so like the Wolven is protecting the couple, the spouses protect each other, and the spouses protect the Wolven. Was how I took it away is like it's meant so that they become a unit of three, but somehow woven throughout that, there's this like sexual undertone that everyone alludes to usually happens, but could or could not, but is not an all the time thing.
Right.
Well, and they kept saying, everyone kept saying, like, especially because Poppy is only part Atlantean, like, she's not full. It was speculated on multiple occasions, like, you won't be expected to participate. Like, this isn't necessarily something that we would say you have to, simply because you're not fully Atlantean.
Well, and it even without that, and they do say that to her, but it's like set up as this optional thing,
Mm-hmm.
but the sexual part of it is like optional, but it's insinuated that it is common.
And likely.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Right. Right.
But I didn't get the sense that I got the sense that it's a like ceremonial, like one time thing, not, and then like you are mentally all linked together.
I did get that sense too. Maybe that's
Yeah.
just
Maybe.
me.
But that was at least what I took away. And then it was like, then everybody makes their choices as adults make choices after that. But
Yep.
I don't know. That was a little
A
off.
stretch.
Yeah.
A
For me.
smidge.
A little bit.
I also was because this goes into the scene where, and maybe we're jumping ahead, so Jordan,
Go for it. You can jump ahead.
so we've now traveled. The scene I'm talking about is when they're in Spessa's End,
Yes.
right when Cass hasn't fed in a while, and he wakes up and like is ravenous.
That was terrifying.
That was like hangry on another level. Like I don't even think the get
Yeah.
the Snickers bar was going to work in that situation. It was over the top. But and Kiernan comes in the room and like has to help him feed on Poppy, right? So that he doesn't like drain her kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Well, first he has to encourage her to take enough. He has to encourage Hawk to take enough.
right.
And then he has to also help him stop.
That whole scene was a little off. I don't know how you guys felt about it. It's like, so we've heard about this joining thing, but this isn't it. But this, that was a whole,
This feels like I know.
Right. I don't know how you guys felt about that scene.
Yeah, that was kind of also though too, because embedded through all of that, and this was kind of where I was going with it, but embedded through all of that too, you see a little bit of the development of the relationship between Poppy and Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where it weirded me out a little bit. I did start wondering and questioning. I'm like, are we being set up for a love triangle here? Like, what is going on?
Well, now, and it's funny you say that because I was with you in the moment, that scene, like, and then the one that happened earlier where
There's one where they're having like a conversation. Kieran and Poppy are having a conversation, and there's like flirtation
in there, and then there's also another one with Delano, another,
Delano.
yeah,
Mhm.
who like bursts in the room because he thinks he hears Poppy in his head.
Yes, yes, yes,
In
yes.
the moment, all of those scenes, I was like, this is weird. And it was not until that cliffhanger at the end that it like all made sense. And now looking back on that scene, I think if I were to reread it and those other ones, I don't know if I would have been as confused. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
No, that tracks.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. It just felt really weird. And I'm curious.
This question, do you think, both of you guys having finished book 2, do you think that Poppy, Castile, and Kieran will officially go through with the joining?
Yes.
I do.
Yeah?
Yes.
I do think it will happen.
I think it
Whether
will
or
happen
not
and it
it's
will cause
like-
problems.
Whether or not, well, so, okay. Here's my issue.
Let's hear it, Brie.
Let's go, Brie.
Let me take my glasses off. No,
She's
not necessarily an issue. So I personally like just don't love triangle stories. Like they're I know some people love them, and I love that for you. I however do not like them, and I do feel like the joining is gonna happen, and I will be. I don't want to say I'm okay with it because that's not what I mean, but like if it's a ceremonial thing, okay, more power to you. You're going to be a powerful trio now. You can all talk to one another. That's super exciting and really cool for you. And I'm sure it adds a layer of protectiveness that would be beneficial for your lives because you seem to all get attacked a lot. And I wager more is coming. So, like, that is all good. What I find, like, kind of strange is that I feel like Poppy is, like, low-key attracted to Kieran.
That's the issue I have with it. That's what I'm
Same.
I'm
And
not a
that's where-
love triangle person either.
That's
It's
what I'm saying.
in the pot.
I don't like that. I don't like the love triangle aspect, and I feel like she's got this like weird, I don't know, infatuation and like attraction to him. And I try to glaze over those parts because I don't like them.
Bree said they could be the ick, and I just can't.
I don't like a love triangle, and like I'm here for
I'm
Poppy and
not about it
Castile. Like
either.
I am here for this relationship. I fully support this. And I just don't, and I'm cool with there being a trio bond. Like, that's awesome. I just don't really like that she's, like, weirdly attracted to him at the same time. And, like, it's one thing for her to be like, oh, yeah, like, he's a good-looking dude. Cool. Like, yeah.
Do you think that he's also trying to deny attraction to her, too? Because I find it mutual. I do. I really think it is.
And he's just not making a move because it's his best friend.
Right.
Girl.
Right.
Ew.
Well, also because so let's dive into Castile and Kieran's relationship for a second and just that bond, right? So they are bonded even deeper than brothers. They are like the ride or die ultimate, right? And so can you imagine that situation going into like the joining where there is this triangle, like it's this whole, it feels like
We're
it's this
also-
whole morally gray sort of thing.
We're also
Right.
3 married women.
It's true.
Like,
It's true.
so I feel like that should be said.
Is it time where we discuss the hall pass?
Another layer in here. I'm gonna steer back to the Wolven.
It's like right in it.
Because I think the other layer, like, to this that perhaps they didn't realize themselves, them being Poppy and Kiernan, like, in the book, is
Uh-huh.
what happens at the very end, which I think we're full spoilers here, so we could.
We are I
We
did
got
not add that at the top, correct. We are spoiler friendly. We are not spoiler free. Take it away, Emily. Go.
We're gonna dive in. So at the end, right, and then we'll go back to a couple other scenes that happened before this, right? So they arrive in Scion's Cove. I think I said that right.
nailed it.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm trying to remember how it was pronounced on Audible. I can't. Go ahead.
Scion's Cove. I said it wrong.
Mhm.
Some listener comment, please. In Atlantia. And Poppy goes with Beckett. Listener, that was air quotes on Beckett. To go to the temple, Niktos.
Nyctos. Yes, Nyctos.
And she's accosted there, right? Atlanteans
Yes.
throwing stones at her. They call her all sorts of names, right?
I hated it.
And then the sky starts to rain blood,
Correct.
right? Which
Yes.
is like a whole nother freaky thing. And a blood tree forms behind Poppy. And then she, for the first time, actually weaponizes her gift. So
Yes.
she opens up her feelings and is feeling all this hate and like takes it in and then like supercharges it and like spits it back out and kills everybody.
Well, and what we want to add, listener, this is the end scene. What you're seeing throughout the entire book, embedded through 500 plus pages, is that her gift is developing. It's growing. She's been healing people. She's been using her gifts. She's been asking so many questions of Castile and Kieran, trying to understand how her gift is working. It's speculated that she's even a descendant of empath warriors who are also called soul eaters. Which, okay.
Which everyone loves to hear.
Yeah, super great.
Yeah.
You know, they sound a whole lot better than the Dead Bones clan. We're going to get into that. But, so yes, go ahead and finish the end scene for listener,
I
Emily.
read that up too, because then like in an instant, and you guys help me remember on this one because I
Yeah.
try not to give away too much in book 3 too. That like when she does that, when she turns and like decimates everybody in the temple, she also calls all the Wolven. Not that she knows she did, but like in her mind that
She had no idea. She didn't realize she was doing this.
right, and she calls all the Wolven to her, and Cass all of a sudden shows up, like everyone's
Yep.
descending on this temple. But in that moment, she broke the bond between Kiernan and Castile.
Oh my God, I did not realize that was what she did. Wait,
Didn't she?
I don't think that happened there.
You don't think so?
no. I
It's
feel like
been a
that
second
might have
since
happened
I read
later.
it, but I feel like
Spoiler.
that might be at a different.
I'm like, wait a second. No, you're not telling me that
Keep
happened.
honest, because Liz, honestly, I know Jordan's checking the page count. At the end of this book, where it left off, I immediately just went to chapter 1, and I feel like book 2 and 3 for me were like one giant 1,500
I
page.
agree with that. I do agree with that. Although I still have like 100 pages left in book 3.
Okay,
But book 2 and
I'm
3 are
gonna-
just like, it's just world building. It's literally 2 books of like straight world building.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so that scene at the end of Kingdom and Flesh and Fire ends with Queen Eloana basically coming and telling everybody, bow before your new queen. Because at this point, Castile and Poppy are married.
Yep. And all the Wolven are surrounding them.
Mm-hmm.
And
But there's nothing with the bond that's been broken as far as
okay,
I'm
I'm gonna just stop there. But the Wolven are all there. They're growling.
Bree's like, don't ruin it for her.
I think there's something else that might be added in there, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Cool. Great.
I
Awesome.
think we avoided major spoilers, listeners. I'm so sorry.
No, but there's but that's what there's so many details that at the same time it's like hard because it's easy like to find holes.
Yeah.
Like a little bit in there as well, I
But
feel
you
like.
know there's something else with I mean, her powers like escalated. The queen doesn't even like go, "Oh, hey, hi, you're my daughter-in-law. Nice to meet you." It's like, "No, here's my crown." Like that was an intense scene in and of itself.
I was like, well, okay, because we also know, listener, for context in that, Castile explains that every reign is only supposed to last, oh my gosh, was it 400 years?
Mhm.
And apparently his mother and father have been serving well beyond the 400 years. The Denier family, if you will, is absolutely considered this like dynasty.
Mhm.
So the fact that his older brother Malik is not able to take his place, Castile has been under great pressure to essentially to marry and to replace his parents
Yep.
as king and queen.
Yep.
So, I mean, I can kind of understand why Eloana would be like, hey, here you go. Like, here's my crown, I'm done.
Like, I'm
But
retiring. Then like, here you go.
yeah, you take over for a little while.
She's like,
I
things have been really hectic lately. I'm so over this. You seem really powerful. Enjoy.
Enjoy. That is
yeah,
what she's
exactly. Oh my gosh.
doing.
No, but I did love seeing the development of Poppy's abilities, of Poppy's gifts. I think we can touch on that and talk about that for a little while, or just for a moment. So
Well, I'll just add to that really quick. Like, I really liked this reveal with the Wolven. Like, earlier when there was stuff happening with Delano and everybody, I wouldn't say it confused me, but I just kept thinking, like, oh, there's definitely more there. But I will say with this, like, it's gone in so many directions that I just didn't expect.
yes.
And which is a good thing. I mean, that's really cool. So I liked this reveal of like her connection, even if I don't fully understand why.
Why?
You're talking about the connection between like herself and Castile, and then like just the
No,
and
like her
her.
connection to the Wolven.
Oh, that yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if I like don't really get why, like I liked the reveal because then it's like everything else made so much sense. Well, not everything else, but a lot of things made more sense. And so I did like that. I was never like confused on some of those things leading up to it. I was just like, oh, okay, there we go.
Oh,
We'll
oh,
say I'm with you on that because I think we talked about this a little bit with book 1 too. I was not expecting until kind of the reveal at the end of the last book that this is like vampires and like werewolves, like that kind of a story, but with additional twists and layers. And I usually don't go for those kind of stories. And I have really enjoyed the world that Jennifer has set up, like with
You
that.
don't like vampire books?
I didn't say I didn't like them. They're just usually not my go-to.
Yeah.
No, it's just not like that's usually not my like in fantasy, that I would be my like first choice. But I have really enjoyed this one, and I give like kudos to Jennifer and her world building and all the different layers and intricacies. It's been really interesting to read. Her take.
This is not your typical vampire and werewolf book, I will say that.
No, it's not.
No, like this is not Vampire Diaries.
No.
This is not Vampire Academy. This is not Circa of Wings of Night. Like it's just not any of those.
So you're saying that like vampires are around like a lot.
Oh, I mean, my husband just like went to New Orleans and he came back and I was like, "Did you meet any vampires?"
Yeah.
But that's also because like I used to be low key obsessed with Vampire Diaries and the originals. Like,
did you read the books?
I read some of them a long time ago. I never shared that with people growing up, but I was like, I love Vampire Diaries and Vampire Academy. I was like obsessed with them. Yeah. So he went to New Orleans and I was like,
and I think go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm like I mean I did Twilight, obviously. That was totally my generation. I did a couple of the Suki Stackhouse. I did a couple of the True Blood. I can't remember how many books I made it in that series. Maybe only like 3 or 4 at most, but never the Vampire Diaries and never Vampire Academy.
I
I'm
think
pretty
I
sure
didn't.
I read the entire Vampire Academy series. I still
Oh,
have them.
hey, because I think that, and Brie, that's a really good point. Both Brie and Jordan, that you guys are making. Those series are the ones when I hear like vampire story, I'm thinking Vampire Diary. Like I'm thinking those series, and that's not ones I haven't read any of the books. I've seen some of the TV show. Like it's interesting. They're good, but that's not
They're
my
so good.
first like pick off the shelf. And I have been so like pleasantly surprised by this
Okay.
series. And I think it's worth noting to listeners that it's not like when we say vampire story, it's a totally different vampire genre. I'd almost put it in its own category.
I know. I don't even really like, well, I don't tell anybody that it is because I want them, if I recommend it, I want them to be just as surprised as we are.
100%.
But I'm like, but it's not your typical vampire story, even though that's what we're talking about.
But it's good. It's good.
It definitely is a different take.
Yeah.
This just feels like a very different way to bring vampires into. Yeah. Into.
I had a question, Jordan, for you and Brie, because one of the things, and I'm going to backtrack maybe a little bit from the end
Yes, let's backtrack.
so I don't get in trouble again and give away more spoilers that I shouldn't. I don't have into here. But one of the things that has like kept me on the edge of my seat with this book is what actually happened with Poppy's parents the night they were killed.
It's driving me crazy.
Nuts.
I know. It's okay. Do we think that her flashbacks are real? Like, okay, so she's having these dreams, right? Like she's having these nightmares where she's remembering different things that are happening. I actually think that she is more. Here's my. I mean, I don't know how much of like a prediction and prose section or segment we're gonna have for this, but like, I actually think she's not as far off as she thinks that she is. So, listener, in the book, we get these recounts from like nightmares of things that happened to her, obviously that led to the death of her parents and like how her and her brother Ian became orphans, all of these things. And she's told on different occasions as well, like, well, sometimes trauma, like you don't know how your memories have been affected, blah, blah, blah. My prediction, her memories are actually more accurate than we think that they are. That's my headcanon. I could be wrong.
Brie, what do you think?
No, I agree with that. I think that she remembers more than she probably realizes and is like dreaming about it, but I think it would be really natural to like brush that off and think that you made some up. What is driving me crazy is just the fact that like we still don't know.
Yes.
Because I feel like this started in like book 1.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do we
Did
not?
we get the flashbacks in book 1?
I feel like there was at least one dream or something that because we like
Maybe.
had to know that this had sort of taken place. Maybe not. I'm on book 3 now. I cannot be judged for what for not knowing the specifics. But either way, I just feel like it's been going on for so long and we still don't have answers.
I think there's some huge, I'm with you both. I think it frustrates me that we have not like gotten more answers. I do think she remembers more than I think she's locked it away, like is right from the trauma of just what happened that night. Understandable. But I think it's going to be the key to the whole thing. I think what happened that night is going to be like the big reveal, the big, like when she finally uncovers what that is, that it's going to be the key that solves the final puzzle piece, if you will.
I would agree with that. I think that hopefully more continues to be revealed. I don't know. It also would just
will. It's just really little pieces revealed each time.
Crumbs. I'm like,
crumbs. That's the word for it. Crumbs. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. This may or may not be backtracking enough. Do we talk about Netta or Vanetta? Kieran's sister, because I really liked her. And I think obviously like she's going to have a bigger role to play as the series goes on. That's just my perspective. I really liked meeting her, and obviously there's that. I mean, it's another one of those scenes where like Poppy's gift is continuing to develop. We also around the same time are introduced to Quentin and Beckett, who are younger Wolven, if you will, and
Loved
I
them.
they were
know.
cute.
Yeah.
They're adorable.
They were awesome. They were awesome. And then there's something happens with Beckett. He gets injured, and we see Poppy heal him, which it was very cute.
Yeah.
But even just the connection between Vanetta and Kieran, Vanetta and Castile, and then seeing kind of everybody sort of come together. I liked her a lot, and I'm excited for more of her in the books, to be honest.
I liked her too because I felt like it gives Poppy another it's like a female bestie, right? Like she's been she's been with this traveling army, and it gives her like another strong female character that I'm excited to see how their friendship hopefully
That's
grows.
what I was gonna say. Is I like that there was just another strong female character introduced
Yeah.
to the story here, and like she's the perfect. I mean, that's the perfect role for it and everything. But I guess I liked her as a character, but I was more just happy that there was like this other strong representative of the Wolven too for us to connect
Yep.
with and for Poppy to have for the rest of the story or
Agreed.
however long.
And she gives Poppy a really beautiful like red dress for the wedding. I thought that was so fun.
Have
No,
you
I
guys
I
seen
love
the
that.
like AI videos of
yes.
the
No.
wedding? Oh,
Yes.
No.
oh my gosh. Jordan,
Send me this.
Jordan, will
What?
and yes.
they're
They're
so good.
What?
You guys,
unbelievable.
I don't want to be on board for it, and yet when I have seen some of the AI stuff for like a Fourth Wing and for Blood and Ash, I'm like, okay, this
Okay, I'm with
is
you.
I'm
I'm
here for this. Like I
Yep.
didn't want to
Yep.
be, but I'm on board.
Yep.
I feel like I absolutely need to look this up now. Oh
Oh,
my
Yeah.
god.
I'll send you
Please
one.
do.
They're
I
awesome.
like really want. Oh my
And
god.
you will watch them over and over and over again. It's like a little movie.
Like for quick 30 seconds. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
In
That's
the same vein, I'm curious also to hear, like we love Netta. How do you guys feel about Alistair?
initially he gave me the ick. Initially he gave me the creeps. I didn't like him.
Why?
Initially,
Yeah.
but then that changed.
He grew on me. He grew on me a little bit more. Well, okay. So yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because there was a couple of points throughout the book where I really felt like Alistair was the only one that was giving Poppy information. He told Poppy about Shay, Castile's ex, who was also his daughter. He's the one that wasn't he the one that told her about the joining? He's the one that kind of informed her about, like, he had this really like awkward birds and bees conversation with her.
Yeah,
that
he
was
did.
like
It cracked me up.
I was like,
Yeah.
that was cute. I was like, you're real sweet. You're real sweet. My husband jokes every now and again. He's like, I'm still waiting for my parents to have the birds and bees conversation with me. I'm like, I get it. So there were definitely points that he started growing on me throughout the story. But initially when we meet him, was I a little terrified of him? Yes. I was. What about you, Brie?
Brie, what do you think?
Oh, I don't really know what I think about him. I find him odd.
I do find him odd. I'll agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I find him odd. I don't want to say I find him untrustworthy. Like that's not it. He honestly, so as we're talking about, like I'm trying to think, he reminds me of another character in something that I've watched, but I like can't. It's on the tip of my tongue. I like can't figure out who he reminds me of. But I think that's part of the reason that I feel weird about him is because he reminds me so much of this other character. Um, I find him a little bit strange. I don't really know. I feel like there's a lot more to what he is saying, and I just don't know if he has the best motivations behind all of it. Like, some of it I think could be really authentic and genuine and just wanting to be helpful, and also understanding that Poppy, like, feels kind of in the dark on a lot of things, and we all know she has a lot of questions because that is, like, the running theme of these books is that she has a lot of questions.
But also,
Yeah.
Um
who
Huh?
wouldn't have a lot of questions in her shoes?
Yeah, who wouldn't? Who
That
wouldn't have a lot
doesn't
of
fire
questions?
back to, like, Kieran and Cass and everybody when they make fun of her for questioning
Right,
to be like,
Yeah, like,
"Excuse you."
they
Like,
sigh and they get frustrated and they, like, they're like, "Oh, here she goes with more questions again. Let's support intellectual curiosity."
yeah, and she basically lived under a rock. Give the girl a
right,
break. She should
right.
have 5 free questions for every new revelation.
It's
Like,
this should
10,
be a
10, ma'am, 10.
so I do appreciate that he's, like, giving her information, recognizing, like, I do feel like he is the person that, like, recognizes, like, okay, she came from this, she just does not. We've just turned her world literally upside down. So let's give the girl some answers. And yet there's, like, something that just doesn't feel 100% right. And I don't know what
I'll
it
give you that. Is it him or Jasper that reminds her of Victor?
I
I
think
can't remember. Is it Jasper? I
I
think it's Jasper.
thought it was Alistair.
thought it was Alice.
Maybe it is Alistair that gives her, like, she's like, "Oh, like, he reminds me of Victor. He sounds like him. He, starts to like, I don't know." But yeah, it will be interesting to see his role
Yeah.
as the series unfolds because I'm definitely with Bree. I'm like, you're on the you're on the fence.
The thing that kind of got me, because I'm with both of you, I was like, "Oh, he could go either way." Like, he kind of has fatherly, grandfatherly vibes that are like supportive and giving information. And then there's something there that like is unknown. The part that got me was why he wouldn't be the one to share what happened to his daughter with Pop. Like they're having this conversation, right? And he's like piecemealing information to like he's kind of sharing like he has the birds and the bees talk for goodness sakes about the joint,
Right,
right?
right.
Like he goes down that path, which is like personal and could be seen as stepping on toes of Castile or Kiernan or whatever. And then he like doesn't share
Well,
much.
two
Well,
things
but
like
well, go ahead.
two things that I thought that specific situation was weird. One, sorry, I'm, like, putting on my forehead, like,
Sounds like 2 syllables.
one, two. Um, I okay. One, I thought it was weird because, like, Castile, like, won't even talk about her.
Right.
So, like, the fact that he wouldn't talk about her, and everybody grieves differently, so, like, okay, maybe he feels like she needs to know, which, to be fair, if I was her, I would also want to know who this person is. But then also, like, sorry, second point, he doesn't know the full story though, right? Yeah, second point.
No. So that was what I was gonna chime in and say. When Castile shares with Poppy finally, like, what happened to Shay and the fact that she essentially sold out Mikhail and,
Mhm.
the Wolven or whatever in order to save Castile. Castile is the one that ended up ending Shay
Mhm.
because of his hunger, if you want to call it, or the bloodlust, whatever it is, whatever. I can't remember exactly the label that we put on it, but Castile does tell Poppy, like, Alistair doesn't know. He does not entirely
But it
know
wasn't just that, it was also like he doesn't want Alistair to know about what
her
he did.
selling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, about what she did.
100% with you. I think, though, what got me about the way Alistair phrased all of that to Poppy, because you don't know when Alistair's talking to Poppy, like, what happened to Shay. Like,
Yeah.
it's just setting it up, right? But he phrases it in a way that I walked away going, "Oh, he knows. He's just choosing not to tell
Okay.
Poppy."
Yeah, I
Because
could
she
see
didn't
that. I
because
could see
no.
that.
As a like, I would assume, right, as a father about the daughter, if he truly didn't know, I would see him phrasing it differently, being like, "I don't know what happened. She did," or it would come out differently. But I walked away from that going like, he knows and is intentionally not telling Poppy and saying that it's Castile's story to tell, and that felt weird for someone who
Yes.
supposedly, like, loved his daughter and
Yeah.
pushed her forward. Why would her, like, ending.
Well, and here's the other thing that we don't know or that we don't understand is the timeline between Gianna, Castile's other
Yeah,
union or other promised marriage, and
yep,
Shay. Like, I'm
yeah.
kinda curious about the timeline of it too.
Don't know that. Also, it's in general, it's just his timing of bringing it up is strange. With bringing up
Yes,
Shay is strange.
all of it.
Like, because, so here's the thing. Had this been like months, a year, and he's like, dang, like Castile still hasn't told her about my daughter, that would be one thing. To be
Yes.
like, hey, I just met you. Um,
And
let's
this is crazy.
yeah,
Sorry.
let's let's talk about the birds and the bees. Two, did you know that your boyfriend, soon to be husband's ex-lover is my daughter? Like, it's kind of like, dude, I don't know that this should be coming from you, or at least not right now. This is the timing of this is weird.
Yeah, and also,
Mhm.
like, but I'm gonna be really cryptic and be like, "Yeah, it was my daughter, but I'm not gonna tell you what happened."
Right. I'm
It
gonna
was
tell you about this, but it's also not my
not
story to
right.
tell. So,
It didn't.
It's giving, like, I'm gonna be transparent. I'm gonna tell you everything, but am I gonna tell
Am I really?
you everything?
It just was weird. That was the whole. I have a huge question mark on Alistair. Like,
Mhm. Mhm. 'Kay.
I concur. I concur.
the other.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, this was a minor scene that came because we talked about you mentioned Lord Cheney and that intense scene, and
Let's do it. I wanted to transition into revenge. Let's
yeah,
talk about it.
I just
We're getting ready.
We'll end this on a high note.
yes, on the revenge part, and
'Cause
we'll,
there were so many good scenes. Okay, I'm sorry.
but the one that broke my heart on this one was Mrs. Toulis. We talked about the Toulis family in the first book. So, listener, if you need a recap, go listen to that episode on just the tragedy that is the Toulis family. And then I just like like that opening, which opened the scene really with Lord Cheney and like
It
the
did.
whole thing, right? Just I was like, Mrs. Two, it just broke my heart. What were your thoughts?
I well, um, my thoughts initially were that Lord Cheney was the smarmy weasel of the book,
Yeah.
number 1. Number 2, yeah, I I do appreciate how Jennifer Armentrout wrote the Toulis family as sort of this catalyst
Right.
for the whole premise or idea behind ostracization, marginalization, showing the way that you can be a product of your circumstances, if you will, because it's a whole sort of cause and effect kind of situation, right? As a result of presenting themselves before the Duke and Duchess and being denied or being rejected, they become dissenters against the ascended,
Mhm.
and all hell breaks loose. Like, the foundation of the Toulis family is ripped apart by so many things that ends in their deaths, that ends in their demise.
Yeah.
A lot of it just feels very apropos for different things that were going on in today's current economic and political climate, to be completely honest with you. But
Yeah, I think it was I'm not going to touch that one because I think I'm going to stick within the fantasy book.
Emily's like, we're gonna stay on point. We have a certain end time.
But
And part of the reason we read fantasy is
to
to
escape.
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 Sometimes I think crossing the parapet, riding dragons, or fighting the Ascended would be easier than some of the problems today. I'll leave it there. But on the Tulis, I think too, because like their entire blame is on Poppy.
Yes.
Like they completely take all the propaganda that the Ascended have put out there. Not that the Ascended are against Poppy, but that it's not the Ascended. Like that's not can't possibly be like they can't possibly be the bad people. And then we lose Mr. Tulis. And I assumed like, oh my gosh, already tragic. But Mrs. Tulis and your son just find a hidden cabin in the woods and like
Right.
live
Right.
out your life.
Right.
Like, just like
I
go
know.
somewhere else.
I know.
And then they're reintroduced. Not well, kind of. And like her son's nowhere to be found. So you make the her new awful assumption on that baby. And then she's like killed in front of us. Like in this like the opening scene with Lord Cheney Schmarmy Weasel. To take your term, Jordan, on that.
There's always got to be a smarmy weasel.
I
I'm
was
sorry. Every book, it never fails. And I'm dubbing Lord Cheney the smarmy weasel of this book. It was between him and the entire Dead Bones clan, to be completely honest with you. And he won for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that broke my heart. The whole fight scene then was just epic. Just of like Lord Cheney and
Okay, but to find out that that boy didn't even live, I was
so to tee it up for listeners, right? Like that Poppy follows one of the boys that lives in the keep, right?
yes.
Because Lord Cheney or one of his guards was chasing him. And Poppy gives herself up. That's the whole reason Lord Cheney was there, was to take Poppy back to the Ascended. And so she follows them into the stables and she basically gives herself up in exchange for the boy, what she thinks is saving the boy's life. And then when she finds out he was actually killed after she was knocked unconscious, I was like,
You've got to be kidding me.
burn it to the ground. Just burn the whole thing to the ground. That was a throw the book across the room moment for me. Because it's like Mrs. Tulis and her son and that boy, and it was just like, we're done.
Nobody is safe.
No.
No, that is a really really good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a good way to put it. So we have the revenge against Lord Cheney, which I think we kind of talked about now. I mean, what better way to segue into the Duchess?
I loved that.
Because listen, that was some pretty epic revenge. I thought the revenge with killing Lord Cheney was pretty epic. I think the Duchess takes the cake, to be quite honest with you.
It was great. I think because they're all at Spessa's end, they're having this standoff, this like chat, if you will. Castile and Poppy on the wall and like the Duchess, down below, and they're swapping, I don't know, stories, insults, comments, all of the above. I died when then she flung the heads over the wall.
Yeah.
That was like, that just absolutely, that was another like stand up off the chair moment as I was reading that. But that was such sweet revenge when she got to the Duchess in the carriage and
well, and what's so crazy is how like Poppy talks about like, because obviously like we're all from like Poppy's point of view, right? And she I just love how she phrases it too. She's like, I had sympathy for this woman. Here I was thinking that she had been under the Duke's hand this entire time, and no, she's just been lying to me the same way that everybody else has. And here, and it's actually really kind of funny because you listen to this on Audible, and the narrator does a fantastic job of the voices, making the Duchess's voice all light and sweet and explaining, like, "Oh, your Ian and Malik are together. If you come with me, we'll make sure that they're like," and Poppy's literally like, you're no.
You know who I pictured the voice? Like, because we
Who?
listened to Audible and then Kindle. I went back and forth for this one.
Same, same.
Literally pictured Umbridge.
Did
Like
you really for the
like,
Duchess?
the Duchess. Not
Really?
not in, like, build. I pictured, like, more of
Okay.
an elegant, like,
But
Duchess
just in,
with
like, the demeanor
the
and the
demeanor
mannerisms and the
and the voice and, like,
yes,
you
Okay,
know,
yes.
okay.
always put together and her voice, like, like her little, like, just
Yeah,
laugh, like, that I pictured take Umbridge, but, like, have her be a duchess, and that was Duchess Tierman.
I can see that. I can see that.
I like that. I like that a lot. That I appreciate that.
But then
No,
let's talk
I
about
thought
too, because I think there was something the Duchess said, and I'm intentionally asking this question so I don't give away
please.
because I'm not gonna step in that cow pie twice. Is that she says the Duchess, like, says some comments about Cass and Poppy's, like, marriage, upcoming wedding, like, them being together.
Right.
Right. Well, she makes a comment that like Poppy has accomplished what the queen never
Yes,
What
could,
the
or
queen never could,
yeah,
yes.
yes.
it's something like that, which we don't know what the heck that means. Like, but
Yeah,
she
But
did.
she also tells Poppy that Poppy is a descendant of the queen.
right.
Yeah.
What do we think about that? I mean, that, like
Honestly, don't even know what to think of.
I don't either.
It just created so many questions for me. Like, I I mean, it's really interesting, but then also, I feel like the Duchess was saying just about any, like, a part of me is like, the Duchess is saying anything to get Poppy's attention, to like want to try to keep her, to get her her own answers. But I do think that there's more to that. Like, I do think that that was said intentionally. Um, and it makes me, what are, I just don't know what's gonna happen. It created a lot more questions for me. I was like, what does that mean?
let's put it out there. Do we think? Because I definitely thought at this point, do we believe that Poppy is Queen Ileana's descendant? Predictions, like, if we were putting a
Yeah,
prediction on the board, I do,
you
and I'm gonna put
do.
that and I put that I had that at the end of book 2. Like, truthfully, I think
That she
So do
would
you
be
think
like,
she's not an ascended?
do I think that Poppy is
No,
not
do
an
you think the queen is not actually an ascended? That she might be an Atlantean? Atlantean, yeah.
I
I could buy that.
something else. I don't
You
know
think
what
she's
she is. I don't think she's a full-on ascended because you can't have children like that.
right?
Like, I think she is something else, and I do think Poppy there's a lineage there.
What if, what if Poppy is descended from her and she like wanted her to go away and that was why she sent her off with her parents who are not, maybe
Well,
not
because it
really
is also speculated that, like, her parents aren't her parents,
right.
Mine,
and her brother isn't her
What if
brother.
she wanted to like
I don't
what if
think
she is behind sending them off?
Ian or her parents are actually her brother and parents.
I don't think so either.
Like,
I
there's no way.
I don't think so.
Oh my
I don't think they're related. But she could be descended from the queen and the queen was maybe trying to get her away. But then why would she have like brought her back after they were attacked and then had her become the maiden? Maybe because then maybe because if she did that and she concocted this like, oh, she's the maiden, it would have it protected her. I mean, is it because like there's
No one
this
touch
whole
her.
story to keep the maiden alive. So maybe it would have
Right.
protected her and sheltered her until she was able to come back and get
Well,
the
that was
I
answer.
the
could buy that.
because there's supposedly only been one other maiden, and they don't
Right.
talk about the criteria for how you, like, decide a baby is the next maiden. There's
Right.
no, like, "Oh, they were born under the auspicious 3rd moon of the 7th," there's no, like, what it was, right? Um, do we think there actually was a first maiden?
I'm kind of leaning toward no.
That's where I was leaning at the end of book 2.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of wondering if Poppy's mom was the first maiden. Poppy's
Oh,
real mother was the first maiden.
the one that
Uh,
died? That no like, the one that
interesting. Interesting. Okay.
I
Okay,
don't know.
okay.
I don't I don't know if that's a prediction I wanna hang my hat on or not, or if it's a
I'm
hill
not
I
hanging
wanna
my
die
hat on
on.
any. If anything, this is
I'm
like
not
this book is full of
I'm hanging my
surprises.
hat. I will hang my hat, and I
I'm
said this
just
in book 1.
speculating.
Ian is not actually her brother.
Okay, yeah.
I
You
I
did
I feel
no,
very
you wrote
confident in
that.
that.
I said that
Yeah.
in book 1. I stand by that in now book 2. I will hang my hat on Ian is not actually her brother.
Yeah, I feel very confident in that.
Yeah.
Almost everything else is speculation.
So I think that's a good segue maybe into like any updates on predictions and pros. I mean, I don't know that I really have any changes. I need to go back and see. Let me go back and see real quick, like what
I think I
mine.
just gave some random predictions. I don't know if I have any beyond that.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any like different ones.
Yeah.
The only ones I would add, so I think Castile and Poppy will be together throughout the series. I'm looking at my notes from the last one.
Same.
They will stay. I think that prediction stands. I think Castile's brother is still alive.
You do think
I
Malik is
and
still alive?
I said that in book 1. I still think he's
And we
alive.
still don't know it come book 2.
We don't know, but I
Nope.
stand by that prediction. I think Poppy's brother Ian is not actually her brother. I have planted my flag on
If
that.
Ian or Malik are dead, though, which one do you think is dead? I think Ian's dead.
If it's between the two of them, I think Ian's dead. But I think they're
Yeah.
both alive. I just don't think Ian is actually her brother.
Yep.
And then
I
I
agree with
will
that.
add, I think Poppy is a descendant of Queen Ileana.
I like
Okay.
that. I do like
I
that.
just don't know the details of how that evolved or what she is or what all that means. But I'll put that out there. I do think she is a descendant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that I have any other updates as well, except I think that things are going to get weirder between Poppy, Castile, and Kieran.
Well, let's start group. I think group
And I
prediction.
don't know how I feel about it.
I think we said earlier, like, we all think the joining will happen.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah, so that's in addition to the predictions.
The joining will happen.
We do predict that. We do predict that.
That will be
Okay,
really
let's not end on that note. Let's end on a totally different note.
go back to that.
Right, let's end on something totally different. Before we wrap up, because I need input. So Jared, my husband, is ready to. He finished Throne of Glass. It was. Yep,
Oh,
I know.
okay.
I know. He did it. Big things
Look at
happened.
him.
So. Oh, I thought that was him talking to me. It's not. So he is getting ready to start. He wants to start a new series tonight. And
Oh.
hold on. But so I am supposed to pick, and I'm very torn. Like he's been very adamant that I have to pick. So
This is a great way to end. What are the options?
okay. So here are kind of my thoughts. One, that he restart Fourth Wing, because it's been a long time since he read that one. He remembers nothing. If I talk about it, he has absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. And he hasn't read Iron Flame or Onyx Storm. So solid. Do we restart that? Okay. Or I said, and Emily, I don't think you've read it. I said, The Serpent in the Wings of Night. So completed duology. We've got Vampire Hunger Games basically going on. Lots of action. So to me, I'm kind of like, okay, that seems like something you would like. You like action. Or do I have him read this?
I would go with Serpents and Wings of Night. to be
Okay.
completely honest with you. And here's the only reason why.
Do
I
tell.
think The Serpents and Wings of Night, because it's a duology, there's going to be more of a sense of completion.
Yeah.
Since
Well, they're
we
technically.
know Rebecca Yaros hasn't even started book 4, Jared's got time.
I know.
He's got
But
time.
I really need someone to talk about.
Well, and there's the rub. So if you want to talk to him about the Empyrean,
Yeah.
then yes, by all means, go with Fourth Wing.
Okay. But yes, no, Serpent and Wings Night, like, completed duology. I mean, there is technically a book 3, but I mean, Carissa Broadbent has a plan. Like, I don't think I'm gonna be 50 by the time she finishes that. And it is technically like book 1 of
Sarah
her.
J. Maas, on the other hand,
Oh,
we don't really know.
Has he read ACOTAR?
So there's that. So that's the thing. He's read 1 through 3, so he
Okay.
can't start Crescent City.
Correct.
Oh,
And
okay.
and I think he actually kind of wants to, but he does not want to read Silver Flames
What?
Not.
because he doesn't like Nesta.
She's my girl.
Emily, we've
Well,
talked about this.
remember we had this whole thing, Emily, about Bree with Nesta.
guys,
I know.
To be fair, I did not sway that. He came to that conclusion on his own that he did not
Okay.
like Nesta
Okay.
from the first 3.
You know what? Nobody's
And
perfect. I gave it to him.
I didn't like Nesta until Crescent City. So
But you have okay. Well, if that's off the table, I haven't read The Serpent of Wings and Night.
Serpent and Wings at Night.
I haven't
Yeah.
read that one yet, so I can't comment on that one. My husband read Fourth Wing, and he listened to the audiobook for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and is now on Onyx Storm, and is, I say, marginally enjoying it. It's like we can talk about it at least. So I would vote in that camp. But the other series I'd throw out there, just to like totally throw a monkey wrench in your entire list. Have you read or heard of the series Red Rising?
yes,
What?
and I know
Oh.
exactly what you're talking about. I don't have a copy of it, but I know what you're talking about because I was just talking about Taryn Davidson earlier. Like, Red Rising was a like big inspiration for her
Huge.
for
So-
her book that I interviewed her on.
It's on my list to read Red Rising. It's a trilogy.
Mhm.
My husband listened to it on audiobook, and it's a fantasy, like I think more
I thought it was more like sci-fi
sci-fi
dystopian.
fantasy. Yeah.
Oh.
Element
Okay.
to it.
I could be very, very wrong.
I said I haven't read it, but all I know is that my husband listened to it on audiobook, loved it. My brother-in-law is reading it now. We gave him books 2 and 3 for Christmas, and he loves it. It's on my list to read. And Red Rising, if he likes like The Martian, kind of like in the same vein as The
Okay.
Martian, like with fantasy, Red Rising could be up his alley. Otherwise, I'd vote Fourth Wing.
That is a great, great, great point. And on that note, I think they just left me for their walk.
Well,
So
you can have a
Let's-
decision for him by the time that he gets back.
well, I want to go walking with him because I've been sitting in this house
Girl,
at this
get yourself
desk
out and get
for
some
about 12
exercise.
hours.
Let's
I
here, and I will ask listeners comment or send us your thoughts for Bree's question. Would you do Fourth Wing,
there you go.
Serpent, or would you do Red Rising or option 4? We can put a
There
poll
you go.
up
Cool.
on all of our Instas when this goes out. How's that? So let us know what your
There.
recommendation would be. And then we'll talk about book 3.
I love it. Yes. So for March, we will be covering The Crown of Gilded Bones, which is the 3rd book in the series by Jennifer Armentrout.
And
So
you take a radio keyboard to go dun dun dun.
Basically.
And you know, there's probably some points or different things that we missed along the way, but that is okay. It happens. We're operating under the assumption, listener, that you have read as well. And if not, pick up this series. Definitely do it. It's worthwhile. We ask that you rate, review, subscribe. Let us know what you think. We are enjoying this series, obviously, and love sharing our thoughts with you. And I will just say, until next time, you can find me on Instagram at Cozy Reads and Sips.
You find me at books.bottles.
And you can find the podcast at Narratives and Nightcaps. Cheers.
There we go. Cheers, friends.